Hello everybody, this is Gonzalo from G Silva Sound. In this video, we're going to make a beat on SoundTrap using the recording feature to sample a song, the pattern beat maker to create a drum part, and using our typing keyboard to play out our MIDI instruments, and the piano roll to edit our notes. So let's go. Now that we're in the studio, we need to prepare to record our sample. So the first thing we want to make sure is that our microphone is activated. To do that, you have to look at the top left, right by the URL, where there is a lock, and locate the microphone. Make sure that that's activated. Next, we're going to go to add a new track, and then we're going to go to voice and microphones. In this case, I'm going to be using the microphone that's built into my headphone. The track that we're going to be sampling today is by Keith Mansfield, a British composer, and the name of his song is called The Loving Touch. So before we even get started, we want to do a quick sound check. So right here, we're going to locate our volume check button. And if you notice that this meter goes from 0 to 100, what we want to make sure is that we get a signal. So we want to make sure that the level is actually moving up, and try to hit somewhere around 60. And you don't want it to touch the 100 constantly, because that means you're going to be causing distortion. So I'm going to play the music from my phone from Spotify. And once again, I'm going to record it directly into this microphone. So let me play the song, and then let's start the check. Great. Now, if the signal if you saw the meter moving, but it wasn't reaching the 20, that means you might have to turn it up or get closer to your microphone. And if it's going too much towards the 100, that means you have to either back up or turn the volume down a little. So now that we're done checking our microphone, the next thing we need to do is make sure that we know what BPM our song is at. So at the bottom where it says tempo, our default tempo is always going to be at 120. Once you click that, you're going to see this window pop up and reveal that you can hit the letter T to tap to the beat. So I'm going to play the song, and I'm going to tap to the downbeat of the song. Great. Now I'm going to confirm, and now we're ready to record. Now, before we actually start recording, I want to make sure that I enable my record function. So on the top where I set up the microphone, there's an R. Once I click it, it's going to ask me if I'm using headphones. In this case, I am. I'm using these pair of headphones here. And I'm going to click it, and now you can hear me. You might hear my voice double up a little bit. I want to make sure that I go to the bottom right, and I'm going to turn off my counting because I just want to start recording whenever I'm ready. I'll start recording it now, and then I'll start playing the song. So here we go. Great. Now let's check our recording. So what we recorded here is a wave. That's what we're seeing right now. Now, the first thing I want to do is find the first downbeat. So I'm going to use the tools on SoundTrap to zoom in as much as I can to see every detail. Then I want to move my cursor and find where the first downbeat is. Now, once I locate my first downbeat, I'm going to move my cursor to that first line. Then I'm going to right click, and I'm looking for this feature called split region. Now, it's also good to take note of any of the shortcuts that are on here. So in this case, I can hit Command E, and no matter where my cursor is located, it'll split that region. I can get rid of this, zoom back out, and move it all the way to the right. Now we can turn on our metronome to make sure that it's clicking in beat. Great. Now there's a little fragment or a little remnant of what the following bar was about to play. But all we really need is 4 bars of this song. Now what I want to make sure is that from the bottom, I can actually move and control how much of this sample I want. At the top, it allows me to then loop that section. And what I want to make sure is that in this part right here on the 4th bar, that it loops and it sounds seamless. And let's zoom in just to make sure that it's tight. Now, right here is the beginning of one sound. And here at the seam is where the start of my sample is. So I can probably move this back just a little bit. And let's hear it now. Now it's definitely seamless. But since I moved that seam back a little bit, it's not really lining up with my bars. So I'm going to use the stretch feature to stretch my sample to make it fit to the 4 bars. So I'm going to move this loop back. This is where that sound ended, and this is where I want it to reach. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, great. So this is where this cursor is where I want to reach. And down here, I'm going to hit my option button, and you notice it turns this into my stretch region feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold down my option button, and then I'm going to drag this across to the 5th bar, and now it's going to stretch my sample. Now I'm going to loop it again, and let's hear the break in that scene. Great, seamless. Now, the next thing that we want to do is create a drum track using the Patterns beatmaker. Now, there's 2 ways of us creating a drum track in the Patterns beatmaker. We can either press the Patterns beatmaker right here, which is the option right in the middle of the screen, or we can go to add a new track and go to drum and beats. The first option that opens up for us is the Patterns beatmaker. So I might want to start with my hi-hat. I want to create 1/8 notes. Now, another cool feature about this is that I can add other sounds from that same kit. So if I go to add, I can add, for instance, my open hi-hat. So I'm going to put that at the end of the 2nd bar. Great. Now that I have these 2 bars of drums, my hi-hats, with the open hi-hat at the end of the 2nd bar, I want to merge these 2 tracks together. So I'm going to highlight both of these, then I'm going to right click, and I'm going to merge regions. This just makes it easier for me to loop it all the way through. Let's keep adding to our drums. The next thing I want to add is my kick. So let's create a kick. I usually start right on the 1. My snare is going to land on the 2 and the 4. Great. So I created my drum track. Now, these are MIDI notes, which basically means that I can go and change my instrument at any time. It'll be the same notes. So for instance, right now I'm using the vanilla pack. And if I click on it, this drop-down menu will come up with all my other packs that I have available for me. So I'm going to look for a pack named Detroit. I like that kick a lot better. Now I want to change the type of snare that it is. If I click over here next to the snare, there's a drop-down menu that allows me to choose a different sound. So I'm going to try snare 2. And I'm going to layer that or have that play along with the other snare that I have in there. Now we could also look in the instrument section, and one thing you'll notice is that all these drums have numbers and letters associated to them. What that means is that I can use my typing keyboard to play my drums. So let's see what other sounds we have available in this kit. All right, let's see if we can add those rattling shakers into our mix. I'm going to add this and I'm going to play it in. Now, with the Patterns Beatmaker, all your sounds will sound very rigid because they're all aligning to those cells into those boxes. If I want to get a freer sound or a looser sound, I can go over here to my auto quantize and just turn it off, or I can choose to do it at 1 and 32nd beats. And even though it'll still be quantized, it'll still be a little looser if I play it accidentally a little bit offbeat and to make it sound a little more realistic. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to set my metronome on. And I'm going to go to this tool and set my count into 1 bar. This just gets me ready to start recording after I hear the 4 count or 1 bar. So here we go. Great. Now I can go to my piano roll. And here I can make editing choices. So for instance, that first hit, might want to bring that second hit a little further in. So I'm going to move it in. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to take out these hi-hats And I'm going to leave that tambourine sound. I'm just going to go across and highlight and delete. Great. Now, the other thing I can do is also change the velocity of these sounds. Because I'm using my typing keyboard, I really don't have any type of sensitivity on how I'm playing those keys. So just like a real drum, you might not be hitting them at the same speed or at the same rate. So what I'm going to do is, if you look over here in our edit section, we have the V, which stands for velocity. Now here, I'm just going to highlight all these sounds, all my tambourine sounds, and I'm bring them down slightly. And what this is going to do is going to change the velocity, which will also change the volume that is being played. Great. Now, before I forget, let's actually start saving this song. We're not done yet. We're just getting started. So I'm going to call this the Loving Touch, which is the same name as this original song that I'm sampling. So let's go back into our instruments and let's look for guitar and bass. I'm going to go with an electric bass. Let's try this bone bass. Now that we have our bass, let's start recording it. Turn my metronome back on. I think 4 bars, that is enough. And I'll just loop that. All right, let's hear it. I can go into my piano roll and edit. And I want to make sure that I don't want everything sounding too loose. So I want to make sure that these notes are playing at the right time. Great. Now that we have our sample, we have the key, the drums, and a bass, we can start incorporating other sounds from the loop library. So let's see if we can find something that'll match what we have so far. So I might want to add a synth. find another sound. I'm gonna try a guitar. I want to make sure I choose MIDI. So just in case I don't necessarily like the sound, but I like the notes that I might be playing, and I can just change the type of instrument it is. So let's see what we can find. Great. Now that we have these 4 parts, let's start turning this into a song. So I'm gonna have my loop play, or my sample play, and I'm gonna loop it. I'm gonna move my drums, start a little later, along with my bass. And I'll use this guitar a little further down, kind of pick things up a little bit. Okay, great. Now that I have all my parts set out, I'm going to start using some automation to create an effect at a certain part. So I want to use automation to control what's called the sweep. And what the sweep is a filter. I have a couple of different options for my filter. I have what's called muffled, hollow, and nasal 1, 2, and 3. And muffled will basically work as a low pass filter. Hollow will work as a high pass filter. And the nasal 1, 2, and 3 is different settings of a band pass filter. So what I'm going to do is create points on where I want these filters to start activating. So I'm going to put a point here, and then I'm going to drop or activate my muffled filter. And you'll see at this point, at bars 15 to 17, you're going to hear a dip in the sound. So I'm going to just solo this so you can hear it. Great. Now you will hear the sound, but it'll muffle and give more space for this electric guitar to come in. So let's hear that transition. Great. Now that I have my automation set, I'm gonna start creating some edits to give this a little more motion. So for instance, right here on the drum, I'm gonna split right here and bring this back. Bring this back 2 bars, or actually 1 bar, and create this empty space so these instruments can play for that 1 bar and give it an effect of something new starting. And I can go here to my loops once again, and I want to look for a sound effect to kind of break up that space in between. So I'm going to go to SFX or sound effects. I'm going to go to sounds. And I think what I'm looking for is going to be a sweep sound. Perfect. So here's my sound. Now what I want to make sure is that the sound lines up with the end of that last bar before it goes and the drums begin again. And I can actually bring my drum right to this part here. Probably end on a clap. So I'm gonna create that effect one more time. Right here, we can start bringing up our sweep filter back to its normal setting. Great. Now let's hear the whole thing together. Now that it's done mixing, I can go to the right and where there's the circle with the 3 dots, and here I can download my track as an MP3, an OGG, or as a wave. I'm gonna save mine as a wave. And then I'm gonna put this into my downloads. I'm gonna put my name, G Silva. And I'm going to save it. The other options I have here is to invite other people. I can share a copy. I can invite people to it. I can rename it, move it into one of my folders. And since this is in my EDU account, I can also create an assignment based around what I did in this track. So thanks again for joining me for this second video on SoundTrap. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Gonzalo at G Silva Sound, or you can ask your professor, Professor Cooper, if you have any further questions about this process. Thank you again. Peace.